As you know, we're going to be talking about executive functioning, and we'll be talking about understanding deficits and how to help our scattered kids. And Scattered is Smart But Scattered is the book by Peg Dawson, and I just love the term scattered. I just think that's an adorable way to kind of conceptualize that. So that's what we'll be talking about today. I'd like to find out a little bit about who you are. So how many of you here are parents? A lot of parents. And providers? Two providers, too. Awesome, great. And then what kind of things do you hope to get out of this presentation today? Anyone share maybe why you came today or what you specifically were interested in? Strategies, perfect. Awesome, we'll be talking about strategies. Yes.
Transitions.
Transitions? Like how to deal with
Smart, scattered kids sometimes have a hard time going from one activity to another.
You don't say. You don't say. Yes, that is very true. Awesome.
I'm a teacher and looking for strategies for managing kids in the classroom.
Great. Awesome. We'll be talking about a little bit of all of that today. So we're going to stop. So we'll talk a little bit. Oh, that looks really small in there. A little bit about what executive functioning is. So it's really this umbrella term that encompasses those interrelated skills that are necessary for purposeful, goal-directed activity. So those skills that we use to get things done. And there's lots of different aspects of executive functioning. So if you hear someone say, it's a fight to get my kids to start anything, then they're having difficulty with initiating tasks. He's supposed to be reading, but I look over and he's staring off. That's difficulty with attending. She's so fast at solving basic math facts, but as soon as a problem involves more than one step, she's completely lost, like she's never learned it before. And that's issues with working memory. He's usually really easygoing, but when there's a change in schedule, he throws a complete fit. That's flexibility. She can be so blunt sometimes, it's like she doesn't realize how her words are affecting others. So metacognition, those self-reflection skills. My child is completely overwhelmed with a big research paper and doesn't even seem to know when to start, or the steps that go into it, or what is the most important part. So that's issues with planning and prioritizing. Every time I go to her room, it's a complete disaster. I made all of these labeled drawers for her, and she doesn't even use them. Organization deficits. Is always waiting until the night before a big assignment to work on it, before it's due to work on it, and not realizing how much time it will actually take. So difficulty with time management. And he gets so upset over the smallest things when he's at school, he can't even finish his science work. So that's that emotion control or emotion regulation. And then the last thing we'll talk about is inhibitory control. So I have a fun little video. Hoping the speakers are hooked up. Can you hear it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Just kidding. We're good.
So that's your. Alright, here's the deal. Marshmallow, for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another, so then you'll have to. But stay in here and stay in the chair till I come back, okay? Alright. I do. You good? You did? You wanted to eat it, didn't you?
I love that. I think that's a great example of inhibitory control, that delayed gratification, being able to wait and hold out for an even bigger reward. But sometimes our kids with executive functioning deficits cannot do that very well. So what is typical development for executive functioning skills? So we're not born with these skills. I think some of us are more likely to be able to acquire them, to use them, but really they're things that we gain over time. So what's going to be typical? For kids that are in kindergarten through second grade, we can expect them to be able to follow 2 to 3 step directions, maybe work on a short assignment, not more than 20 minutes. And inhibit some behaviors like starting to learn to not be pushing friends, right? When they're toddlers, they kind of push other kids to get their attention, and they start to regulate some of those behaviors. From 3rd to 5th grade, we are expecting them to refrain from most misbehaviors and tantrums, keep track of a schedule, so like what time you go to PE, what time lunch is, and then also maintain materials, so like homework, your speech folder, things like that. And at this point, they're also learning to delay some fun to work. So most kids realize, okay, I have to get this work done, and then I get to go out to recess and are able to do that. Or if I work for 30 minutes, then I can have a 5-minute break, stuff like that. They're starting to understand those concepts. And then 6th or 8th grade, we're expecting them to use systems for organizing schoolwork and due dates, like a planner. That's a big thing for middle school. Inhibit most rule breaking. And then plan and carry out projects, so like a research project or science project. Those are some of the expectations that we have for typically developing kiddos in 6th or 8th grade. But there's a few things that we need to remember. The most important one is puberty, because anything goes during puberty. Really, like literally anything goes. And kids are going through this whole process of neuronal pruning, and so you'll be seeing behaviors from them that you had not seen maybe in years, like those egocentric types of behaviors. And they might be forgetting things constantly, and it's just in fluctuation a lot. So puberty is one thing to kind of keep in mind. Well, and that we all have strengths and weaknesses. So there's things that we're really good at, that we're really strong in, and then, just personally other things that we're not great in. Like I'm not super great with time management. So I really have to be purposeful in managing my time. And then the last point that is really important is kids do well if they can. So if we kind of shift our frame of thought to being like, okay, kids want to do well. They want to make us happy. They want to be successful. They want to be independent. Kids do well if they can. But they don't have those skills right now, and so that's why they're not doing it. It's generally not because they're trying to be disrespectful or because they like having a messy backpack or getting zeros on their assignments, right? Kids do well if they can. So if we just kind of think of it from that piece, then that is just good frame of thought to think about this as we move forward. And please feel free to ask questions or share comments as we're going through the presentation too. So how is your kid impacted? So kids with ADHD and autism have some differences between the two, some similarities also. But so if your child has ADHD or the kiddo that you're working with, they might have difficulty with inhibiting response. So we might see some of those impulsive behaviors. They might have a hard time following multi-step directions, so working memory. They have a hard time staying focused on an assignment that's not preferred, or a task that's not preferred, or not engaging enough. They have difficulty starting tasks, difficulty planning, so figuring out what steps go into a project, and time management as well. So being able to really think about how much time something is going to take, and then what to do if it's taking longer than you expected. So how to really reference time and know what that means for your own schedule. And then the organization, of course, is a big thing that our kiddos with ADHD struggle with. So just starting to create organizational systems and then also maintaining those systems. So even if you create them for them, like I made this binder and there's all these dividers and they don't use them, they're having a hard time maintaining those systems. You guys see some of those things in your kids too? Yeah, perfect, yeah.
And at this, my son's in 4th grade, and this is school. Every single one,
Absolutely.
every single one of those things is required of them in the school day.
Yeah,
It's a exhausting experience for everybody involved.
yeah, definitely. These are all very important things for your school day, right? If he's super impulsive and not able to maintain his behaviors, yeah, that's a concern. If they can't sustain attention because he doesn't like social studies, well, yeah, there's a concern, you know, lots of things. And then, of course, time management and organization and all that stuff too, definitely. And then kiddos with autism have some different deficits. So emotion regulation, that could be lots of different things. Tantruming, withdrawal, just depends on the kiddo. Difficulty if schedules change, being flexible, or just having flexible thinking, like with problem solving, being able to think outside the box, other ways to solve problems. Sustained attention again with those maybe non-preferred tasks. Planning, and we see this a lot in kids with difficulty, like we see it kind of projected in their writing. So they might have a writing assignment and there's like no flow to their writing, it's just like random details. They're having difficulty with planning out kind of, you know, I need an introduction and some supporting details and then a conclusion, stuff like that. But it can be seen in lots of other things too. Again, organizing, and then that metacognition piece, which is so important. Being able to self-reflect and see, okay, how am I doing? What am I doing? How's it affecting the other people around me? So our kiddos on the spectrum usually struggle with this. And it's important to know that these aren't mutually exclusive categories, right? There's tons of kids who have ADHD and struggle with metacognition. Yeah.
Well, I don't think he cares.
What about, I'm sorry.
Metacognition,
Okay.
he doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a problem for him.
Totally.
It's everybody else's problem.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That definitely happens. And I think there's this, I think, it's kind of a tricky situation because they don't care how that other person is feeling, but they care when it comes back around to them, right? So like, let's say there's I don't know, a math assignment, and I hate math. So I pick up my chair and throw it. Okay, well now how's the teacher feeling? The teacher's feeling frustrated. And now she's going to reprimand me in front of all of these students. And now I'm feeling awkward and uncomfortable. And I get even more frustrated. So yeah, she or he might not care how that other person is feeling, but ultimately it all comes back around, right? Because my behavior doesn't just affect that person, it in turn is going to affect me in some way. So trying to get them to shift their thought process of, okay, how I do, or the things that I do might affect other people, which is in turn going to affect me. So trying to help them try to change that from that really unexpected behavior of, you know, depending on what it is, but throwing the chair to, okay, if I'm feeling frustrated with my math project, maybe I should just raise my hand. That would be more expected, right? And ask the teacher to come help me.
Except, what do you do in the case where someone, okay, it's not a problem because of what other people expect. I'm not interested. I'm more interested in not getting in trouble or not having the other kids bother me. So I spend all my effort in avoiding conflict and I don't care about what you're trying to teach me. So if I just don't respond, I'm not being singled out for being in trouble,
Yeah.
but I'm not learning anything either.
Right, so, well, that is also unexpected though too, right? We expect kids in the classroom to be learning and working. So it is unexpected to not be working when you're supposed to be working. So that's an unexpected behavior. How's the teacher feeling? Probably annoyed, right? She's probably annoyed that you're not doing your work. She's supposed to be teaching you. So maybe she'll come over and check on you a couple more times, and that makes you feel awkward. Or maybe she gives you a 0 on your assignment, and now you're not feeling super good because you just got a 0 on your assignment. So I think there's other pieces like that too, but sometimes you gotta be creative. Does that answer
Well,
your question?
I'm still, I don't want to argue with you. I'm just
No,
saying,
yeah.
if you're already different because you're autistic, maybe you don't care about what grade they give you.
Hmm?
So that's not a motivation.
It's not a consequence for them.
Yeah.
Guess it depends maybe what is motivating your kiddo, motivating for them, right? Not a lot maybe. But sometimes it can be that complex and you have to get a little bit more creative and look at really what's that function of the behavior, how is that serving them, and what can you do to change that piece for them. Okay, so this piece is the questionnaire. There's a little questionnaire in the handouts. And so this is just an opportunity for you to kind of test yourself with some of these executive functioning skill areas. So I'll give you a few minutes to kind of go through that and fill that questionnaire out. Does anyone else want to share maybe what their strengths and weaknesses were? Oh, you want to share yours? Go ahead.
Strength is emotional control, organization, planning, prioritization, and flexibility.
Nice.
Is it okay if I disagree with you?
Absolutely.
Well, it's funny because my weakest skill is emotional control.
Oh,
So we're balanced.
yes, perfect. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, but you never get
Is anyone really surprised by their ratings? Or feel, yeah, go ahead,
I'll share a frustration.
Sure.
There are a lot of things that I think of as before and after. And my particular kiddo, I have two B children, and my older one's 18, and he's wreaking havoc with our world.
Oh,
And so it's like in reality, this is the way I used to be, but I'm not that way anymore because my life is in a state of constant chaos because of this young adult.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, different events can definitely change how we are interacting with others around us or able to manage ourselves, so yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
My two strongest are goal-directed persistence and stress tolerance, which kind of, I'm not that happy about that because the reason it's stress tolerance is because there's so much stress. And the reason it's goal-directed persistence is because I have one goal and I'm trying to make sure my son becomes a grown-up.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
He's going to be a grown-up.
Yeah.
What kind of
He's a
grown-up? What kind of grown-up?
A grown-up.
I hope he's a mature grown-up someday.
Yeah. Did any of you feel like your strengths or weaknesses aligned with maybe one of your kiddos?
Yeah.
Any similarities?
And it's like task administration, planning, prioritization, oh crap, you suck. You have that problem, and I think I'm just like tired and
Yeah.
freaking.
Yeah.
So it is, like, I know I have to work, I have to be really diligent about those two things,
Totally.
but naturally, I'm like, like, it'll just, I know it'll all work out, like, that's just kind of how I live my life, because I'm high on flexibility, high on emotional control, yet I'm low on stress tolerance, but I think that's something else. And working memory time. Yeah, so I think like in my own world, I just kind of like, it flows and it all just works.
Yeah.
And so I didn't need all this time management and
Yeah.
it just flowed. And now I'm like, okay, we have to like really have this list and we have to go through this.
Totally.
And I'm like, God, this is so hard.
It totally is. That's a really good point. And like a lot of us that's kind of leads well into our next slide, but a lot of us just kind of gain those skills, right? I don't think anyone ever taught me like how to organize my time or how to, regulate my own emotions, but you just kind of like gain those skills somehow through experience that we have. And our kiddos that have executive functioning deficits, they can't do it like we can. They can't just flow, right? They have to be explicitly taught what to do. So how can we help our kids? Think about your own experiences and your own deficits, and what kinds of things do you do? What helps you organize your day, your week? A big project, maintaining your composure when you're really upset in a meeting, things like that. So I know, like for myself, I blindly adhere to my Outlook calendar. If it's not on the calendar, it's not going to happen. That's the only way my life gets scheduled. Every day when I get to work, I make a to-do list. And that to-do list is things that I absolutely have to do that day, things that need to get done soon, and then things that I would like to do if there's some extra time. So we all kind of have developed these skills, and probably most of you have similar ways of organizing your life as well. So, two really important steps to helping your kids. One is teach them the skill. And then two, motivate your child to use a skill if they don't have that motivation already. So we call this positive reinforcement. Some people like to call it bribing, but we all go to work to get a paycheck, right? So sometimes I do a good job at my job because I like my job and I want to do well. But the paycheck helps too, right? So trying to kind of pair those things together is going to be really important, especially because if they don't have the skill at all, they don't have any practice using it, we have to give them something extrinsic, something outside that could kind of get them started, right? Then once you start feeling that success, it's like, okay, yeah, I can do this. Good things kind of come of it, but sometimes we got to do the motivation piece first, get them motivated. And then this is a really important piece that I took from Peg Dawson's presentation. It's our job to help children develop these skills and provide opportunities for them to practice. So for children with executive functioning deficits, the skills just aren't learned from their surroundings. They really need to be explicitly taught. And until they are developed enough, they develop enough of these skills to practice them, we have to be surrogates for their executive functioning skills, which it sounds like a lot of parents are right now, right? And it's exhausting, and it's a lot of work. So hopefully, the goal is that we can get some strategies in place and then kind of fade that support, right? So at first, it might be a lot, but then hopefully we can kind of take a step back and just do some simple prompting to let them take on that role. But until they have those skills, we have to be their surrogates.
What's the difference between being a surrogate and being an enabler?
Well, I think an enabler is doing everything for them, whereas a surrogate is you're doing things with them, beside them, trying to teach them how to manage those systems in their life. So that is my differentiation, I guess.
So cleaning the room with the child versus cleaning the room and the kids in the other room playing video games.
Right. Or things like cleaning the room with cleaning the child's room versus saying, okay, these are the steps to cleaning the room. And this is a good one for organizing your room. These are the steps to cleaning your room. Let's make a checklist, and I'll go do it with you the first time. So the first time you go and do it with them, and then the next time, maybe you have to do that a few times. But then eventually, maybe you just say, okay, get out your checklist and go clean your room, and then hopefully they can get that piece down. So yeah, I think that's the difference there. Good question. So let's do a little practice. So you have some handouts there. It should say on the top, organizing your room. Task analysis for, it's the fifth one, yep. We'll talk about that a little bit. So the first piece is trying to explain, and I took this, by the way, from Flexible and Focused. I have the resource for it on the back page, but it's a really awesome book that talks about different strategies for implementing some of these interventions, and it's a little bit more guided towards Like it has an ABA focus, so it's a little bit more guided towards providers. So I adapted some of the stuff, so that was kind of easy to use. So the first piece is explaining how to sort items. So they might not realize there's different categories, right? Things that need to be thrown away, donated, put in storage, goes in a different room, keep in room. So those are some 5 common ones. Negotiate items to keep versus purge. So some of our kids like to hold on to a lot of stuff, and we need to ask, okay, are you ever going to use this? So if not, try to get them to throw it away. And then also, you want to determine how much of the project you want to bite off. The room is a disaster. Don't try to bite off the whole room. Just do the closet. Just do their desk. Just small parts at a time, okay? And then how also to use household cleaners. So like this is really breaking it down, right, into these very explicit things like how to use household cleaners. Maybe they don't really know how to actually use it, or maybe they don't know you're not supposed to use wood cleaner on your windows. They might not. So just trying to be really explicit and making sure you're getting all the steps in there for them. So then the next piece, my mom's favorite thing to say is everything has a home. So where is your laptop supposed to go? Where are your books supposed to go? Everything has a home. So they shouldn't just be all over the ground. So make sure that everything has a home and that they know where that home is. Make sure you move the items that go into a different room so that they're separated. So things that need to stay in the room, keep them in the room, and everything else outside. And then prompt them through this task analysis checklist. I'm going to grab that too. So I think the checklist does a really good job of breaking things apart, and then there's even like a little date and the area that's organized. So things that they need to get: garbage bags, boxes, wood cleaner, glass cleaner, paper towels, dusty rags. Sort items into, throw away, donate, put in storage, goes in different rooms. Wipes cleared, out storage area, clean with wood, glass cleaner. Yeah.
So isn't part of executive functioning deficit the ability to manage the emotion well enough so that you can get into this is a lot of how to do stuff, right? It's not the emotional part like, we just went through this and my kid generates 6-8 pieces of art today, and every single one of them is a piece of him, and he doesn't want to throw it away, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of emotional conversation around the how do we get to a place where we can even talk about this stuff, right?
Yeah, totally.
So can you talk about that? Like, what is the strategy for helping them get out of that loop of no, you can't throw that away, no, you can't throw that away, no, you can't throw that away?
Well, I think there's a few different strategies that you can use, but so what is he trying to do with them? Like, is he just leaving them? Because do they
He doesn't
necessarily
care about them at all until the second you go to throw it away.
So,
Then all of a sudden it's a piece of art you
Right,
can't
right.
throw away, Dada.
Totally.
Right.
Totally. But maybe there's like a special box that you can put them in that's labeled like artwork, and then you can keep them in a box, right? That you keep in the closet.
So yeah, and we tried some of that, but I'm more interested in there's some sort of cognitive step that he has to get to that's out of that emotional place to even be able to do that, right? Like, how do you get the kid there, right? How do you get him out of that loop that's emotional and do you just wait it out?
No, I you might be waiting forever, so don't try to wait it out.
Right.
But I think
He's 10.
yeah, I think there's a few different things. So trying to address that emotion regulation piece, like zones of regulation does a good job with that, right?
Okay.
So trying to get him to, I think that would be kind of my first step is like if it's really that much of a barrier that he isn't able to do kind of these more basic tasks, can't even get to that point, then probably something more intensive like going through that zones of regulation curriculum and trying to help like develop some common language too. So if it's happening, if they are doing that at school, I know I work with kids and I use the zones of regulation. But if they are doing it at school, then using that same common language at home, so he's, you know, able to kind of communicate, like, okay, I'm in the red zone right now because this is not, I do not want to be throwing away my stuff. And, okay, well, what are some of your strategies that you can use to first calm yourself down, and then we can have a conversation about this. So maybe it's 5-finger breathing, maybe it's coloring, maybe it's, okay, not one that I had prepared today, but I think, I think there are some things, like if the goal is organizing your room, right? And I know that you love baseball, but we're not going to be able to do that until you get these things done. And if it takes you 20 minutes, awesome. If it takes you 4 hours and the park's closed, like, then we can't go. So, you know, I want to honor that you love baseball, and I know that you want to play it, and you're getting so good at it, and I'm so proud of you, but we got to get this done. We got to do the boring stuff, get to the fun stuff, is what my mom used to say to me. So I think just trying to manage it that way, and I know obviously that does not always go well, and sometimes it turns into like a big tantrum, or like, I'm not listening to you, or...
Yeah, and he's 14.
Yeah.
And a tantrum, I mean, you know, just a 14-year-old having a tantrum is something you want to be in a different state, you know, different county.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think, I mean, part of it is that negotiation piece again too of, okay, I know you really want to do this, and I want to take you to do that, so let's get this done so we can go do something you like.
You're saying you just came across it, it wasn't, right, is that what you're saying?
It's often either come across it or suddenly started thinking about it. I mean, he doesn't even have to come across anything. He could suddenly be just, you know, random thought flitted through his mind, and now, you know, there's no changing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Getting really stuck on whatever it is that.
I have one of those, and it leads to the emotional dysregulation, and then you can't get past that. You feel that.
Yep.
And if you say, you know, we'll do it afterwards, he doesn't believe afterwards will ever come.
Yeah.
And so then he's just overwhelmed.
Same thing.
He doesn't have any faith that he can get.
Yeah, he would trade $10 million in 5 minutes for something, you know, a piece of gum right now. I mean, 5 minutes is too long.
Totally.
So.
Yeah. Well, and then sometimes it needs to be broken up into even smaller parts. Like, it's not about cleaning the whole room, but if you get the first 3 things done, so maybe he's done 2, okay, let's get this last thing done, and then we'll go. So sometimes that's easier because it feels like it's too big of a project and I'm never going to get it done. So, I mean,
You make it smaller
so
they can see the possibility.
so they can see the possibility, exactly. Make it smaller for them so they can see the possibility, but then bring it back. Yeah, absolutely. So just being practice with that, because they might not be able to bite off that whole chunk all at once. So the next piece then that I'll kind of talk about is time management. So this is really involved. It involves scheduling activities based on the predicted time that the activity will take, checking in with the time now and then, and to ensure that you're on schedule, and then either speeding up or just readjusting your schedule to make sure you have enough time for your other obligations. So this is something you might want to try with your child if he's always late for commitments, he doesn't end tasks with enough time to transition, or just, you know, waits till the last minute and hasn't allotted enough time to get something done. So the first thing that you want to do is the prediction of elapsed time. So just have them guess how much time things are going to take. So, okay, you have a homework assignment. How long do you think it's going to take? I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. Okay, let them make some predictions about how long things will really take, and do a few different things that they might be doing that day, and then the identification of actual elapsed time. So that's this: how long do things take? So you put down the activity, the time it starts, and the end time. How long did that just take? And sometimes you're way off, right? I know for myself, definitely, I've thought, oh, I can, write this paper in 2-3 hours. And then, oh my gosh, this is way more work than I thought it was. So that's a really important skill to be able to estimate how much time things will take and then actually really look at, okay, yeah, this takes way longer than I thought. And then, oh no, I didn't catch it. There's another form too that I'll have to send out. Something here. But making just like a chart that says, okay, homework takes 5 minutes. Or homework takes 40 minutes, you know, however long it takes. Just some common activities that they can kind of reference. So that way when they come home, they can say, okay, I have math homework. That's probably going to take 20 minutes. And then I also have reading, and that's going to take 30 minutes. So I have about an hour's worth of work to do tonight. So I need to figure out how I'm going to do that in my schedule. Yeah.
Sorry, so then how does this fit in with having like a rigid schedule? So it's like we work in a world where everything's kind of has to be at a set time.
Mm-hmm.
So homework time is say 4 till 5.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's trying to get to that balance of you have 5 hours homework over the week. And okay, Mondays might be 7 minutes long because it's just an online test.
Right.
So we're trying to move into that world of you have this much to do over the week. So how does this kind of fit in with the guessing how much, rather than teaching them to plan accordingly so that they're not set up on a Sunday evening, because all the assignments are assigned on Monday, but they don't have to be until the following Monday. So I'm just wondering how this kind of works. Because we were more advised that you set time for homework every day.
That's one possibility. I think.
So I'm just struggling to fit this into them guesstimating how much homework they've got, because it will just be back to that 5 minutes. I don't, because it doesn't have to be until Monday, so technically I don't have anything.
Right. So I think trying to break it apart into okay, how much do you want to work on maybe that day? So maybe if you want to dedicate an hour that day, or maybe going through on Monday and going through the homework packet or whatever sent home and saying, okay, how long do you think this is going to take? How long do you think this is going to take? Okay, let's map this out and figure out how much time there is and when we need to do it. So you're not stuck on Sunday, because that's a bummer, right? Like that's a bummer to be stuck on Sunday trying to get all this work done. So that is one piece. And then I think the setting aside homework time is fine. It works for some kids and for some kids it doesn't. So what I'll talk about later is the two most important questions that you should ask your child are, what do you have to do and when are you going to do it? Don't say you have to do it right when you get home or you have to do it after dinner. Give them some ownership in that, but then hold them to it. So, well, you said you had math homework and you said you were going to start it at 7. I don't care when you start it, but you have math homework and you need to get it done. So I think that piece can be empowering, and then gives them some sense of, I guess, responsibility. Like, yeah, I did say I was going to do it at this time, so trying to honor that commitment if possible. Is that kind of answer your question, or address your question? Or if there is more.
I mean, I like the fact that, yeah, I can give the option of, okay, homework time is 4, that's what we all agreed.
Right.
But if you want, and I will say, if you want to do it before 4, you can. But there is no reward for doing it earlier in our house, which perhaps I could change that.
No, yeah. You mean doing it earlier in the day or earlier in the week?
Because we can also sit around with nothing to do for 2 hours, or waiting for
It definitely just depends on how it works for your family. If you want them to get it done earlier in the day, then yeah, you could try to incentivize a little bit. Like, hey, if you get it done.
Throwing that, and this is just my world, but changing that tight rigid schedule could then throw something off hours later because there was a bump.
Totally. So then in your world, you want to hold it stable. So yeah, it definitely just depends on your kiddo and what that's going to be for him.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is an age thing with my kid, but we did this, sat down and agreed them out, especially in the morning, like here's when you're gonna put your shoes on, here's when you're gonna brush your teeth, here's when you do your hair and all that. And then about a week later, he wasn't doing any of it. He was like, well, I never agreed to that schedule. And I was like, those are literally the numbers you came up with.
Yeah,
right?
and you hear prove it, and it's like, okay, well, here's the
Yeah, and then it just degrades into this argument about whether he did or did not
Right.
participate in that.
Yeah, so, well, one thing that I try to do that is difficult sometimes, but I try to model that flexibility and be explicit about it, like, okay, I get that you don't want to do it this time, so I'll be flexible with you. Let's change the schedule. How can we fix it to a time that works for you? That works for both of us, right? We both have needs that need to get met. I need you to brush your teeth. I need you to wear shoes when you leave the house. So, let's negotiate and figure out how we can make it work so that, you can do it at whatever time. I don't care what time you do it, as long as when you leave the house, those things are done, right? So.
But I do care.
Oh, you do care.
Because school starts at a certain
Yeah.
time, right?
Well, right, so
Yeah.
I don't care what time you do it, but it has to be done by 7:50 because that's when we're leaving to go to school.
Yeah.
So,
What if they always estimate the amount of homework time is wrong? We have a 15-year-old and he decides he won't do it when we tell him to do it, so we have to let him do it when he wants to do it.
Yeah.
So of course he leaves it till way
That's-
after dinner.
that's why this is important, right? So, okay, you're
But he doesn't
estimating
care
wrong.
if he's not on bed at time. He doesn't care, there's no incentives that work for him.
I sometimes wonder if the kids do these same trainings.
Yeah.
But like it's opposites are all colluding against us.
Yeah, no,
Because
totally.
they know that it impacts us more at 9 or 9:30 at night when they haven't done it. So it almost becomes a negotiating leverage for them.
I mean, we
It's
talk
difficult.
about it in terms of self-care, like if you don't get enough sleep,
Yeah.
you're gonna be tired in class, like there's just a reward of taking care of yourself, but it's hit or miss, whether it
Right.
works or not.
And how old's your
15.
15?
So he doesn't
15?
care if he's up there.
He
You know
doesn't
what you
care if
can-
it's late. Go ahead.
Our son's also 15. One thing that has been occasionally helpful is to let him know that those aren't meeting my needs, because I get anxious that I know no homework has been done. And so it stresses me out. You don't want me to be stressed. We don't want to have a yelling household. So maybe you can create a compromise, get subject X done before dinner, or one of the subjects, or whatever works for him, and then the others later.
And he's usually pretty receptive to that and doesn't want to create a difficult situation, but it'll happen anyway.
Well, it's just that these guys are completely immediate gratification. Something else, anything's better than homework. And it's also probably entertaining to make us twist and squirm and fight with our spouses and stuff like that. So there's other entertainment that comes out of it for them.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a point. So kind of just referring back to this, so trying to make and follow a schedule, right? So those are the two things that we want to do to kind of, they're the precursors to making this schedule. So first make a practice schedule about things that don't really matter, that don't have a deadline, so that they can get used to it and track the time for that. And then move on to make a real schedule for them. To get through, a typical, maybe a day after school or something like that. And then another thing that our kids might struggle with, probably struggle with, is planning out short-term and long-term goals. So they might need help defining a short-term and long-term goal, where a short-term goal, an example would be cleaning out your desk, while a long-term goal is planning a research project that's due in a few weeks, okay? So how can we help them figure out the steps that are involved in this? And so there's also a handout for that too on the next page. Planning short-term tasks. So again, pretty simple, but we want to help them figure out what the goal is, the materials that they need, and then the steps that they need to complete it. And we want them to be able to initiate and monitor and complete that task. So this is a helpful tool to use. And we want to teach them how to use this. And again, checklists are like the most important thing in my life. Like I just use checklists for everything. I use it to figure out, like I said, what I need to do that day, or list the parts that I need for an evaluation report to make sure I get it all done. So it's really important. This is a really natural thing to do, so if we can try to teach them this skill, that can go a really long way for them. But the first part is going to be shadowing. So you really have to like hold their hand through this and teach them how to make this and figure this piece out. And then hopefully we can kind of fade back, after going through this a few times, and just ask them leading questions like, okay, did you look at your checklist? Did you make your checklist? What's going on with that? So the ultimate goal is obviously to have them be able to do this independently, with maybe just like some notes on, if they have like a whiteboard in their room, maybe write goal, materials, steps. So it kind of prompts them to think about that. So that would be the long-term independent goal for them. And then, of course, task initiation. So we want them to start it and to keep going with it, to monitor themselves, and then to ultimately complete with whatever their goal is.
Do you have suggestions where I struggle in the classroom with, I try to break the tasks down for the kids, but in 5 minutes, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but it feels like in 5 minutes, the checklist is gone, the pen's gone, everything's gone, and we're back at, and it's not just one, one kid. It's, different, same story, different kids. So, at least in my experience in middle school, sometimes the paper is not the best. So in the class, at home you could have the whiteboard, but in the classroom, when they're changing classes, I struggle to find out. They won't use their planner.
Yeah. For the kids that I work with, I laminate something and have it on their desk. I don't know what your classroom is set up like, but that
they're
seems to
changing
be.
classrooms, so it doesn't really.
Yeah, so they might not be able to carry it with them, but they don't even have the skill yet to do this.
Right.
So if you're going to teach it in your classroom, that's probably the best way to start, is just doing it in your classroom, so they can kind of get some experience with it, start using it, maybe see the reward in it, and then hopefully take it to other classes as well. But I think that's kind of the place to start. Yeah.
Yeah, our son had problems using his planner, and it's mainly because getting it down on paper, I couldn't read it.
Totally.
In the 7th grade before I could read his writing. But what we worked with a teacher, and the teacher would write down the assignment and put it on a Post-it, but put it on the whiteboard. So he has to have some ownership by having to go up there and get it and putting it in his plan. And so that helped somewhat.
In that our middle schooler gets to bring iPad, and it's been life-changing. But I know not everybody else can do that.
Yeah. No, definitely, and I love that idea too. Go ahead.
What do you do? I mean, my son, you give him anything electronic that's connected to the internet, and forget it. He's watching videos, and that's the end of whatever. So.
I don't think it would have worked with my older son, who we were discussing earlier. So I don't know what to tell you, except for they're wired very differently. And my younger son takes it very seriously that this is something he gets as an exception, and he's a little bit maniacal about it.
You can kill the Wi-Fi. One for the kid and one for yourself.
Yeah, that's an idea. Take the password away.
It's only $20.
Okay, so the next piece that I really like is planning for a social life. Oh, sorry, so this is hard to do. I know, if I haven't called my mom in a couple weeks, I think to myself, okay, I need to call my mom and check up on her. Or I haven't had dinner with my girlfriends in a while, so I should send them a text and see if they can meet. So I can keep track of that myself, but our kiddos, especially our kiddos on the spectrum, are not quite there yet. So this checklist I think is awesome, and I like this example, and you can't really see it that well. But it's broken up by weekly goals, and then the days of the week to complete it, and then notes. And then making plans with friends. So it says befriend someone on Instagram, and Saturday there's a check and it says Amy. So she added someone on Instagram. like or comment on a friend's photos, friend's posts 3 times per week. Okay, so that she's making sure that she's still connecting with whoever her friend is, or a few friends, that has a few links there. Check my phone text daily and respond. Okay, that's really important. My brother is just turned 15. He's on the spectrum. I text him all the time, and he never texts me back, and it drives me crazy. But if he doesn't have anything to say, then he's just not going to say anything. So that's another important one too. And then making plans with friends. So ask parents if it's okay for, and then it says Tori to sleep over. Text or call to invite Tori to sleep over. So just those that seem like really basic pieces of social interaction our kiddos are not getting. They're not able to maintain that social life. And some kids don't really care, but some kids do really care. They want to maintain that social life, but they don't really know how to right now.
So what if the friends are on the spectrum also? Say our son remembers to call, but the other friend never looks at messages, never looks at texts. So do I get in touch with the other mom? Because that's the only way it happens half the time, which I don't want to do.
No, I wouldn't want to do that. I would have him advocate though.
But he doesn't have a social life otherwise because they just don't communicate well. Both of them have the same issues.
Right, totally. Yep, I see that all the time too. But I think trying to get him to say like to his friend, hey, you didn't text me back, that made me feel sad, like that you didn't want to hang out, or like, are you mad at me, or what's going on? To try to get him to try to do some of that, because yeah, a 15-year-old, like you don't really want to be setting up play dates, right? You want him to be able to do that himself. So I think that just trying to get him to do it would be the most ideal, but you can only control other people so much. You can't make that other kid text back. So yeah.
Well, and my son, I have gotten to the place where he needs to call people, so he will call them.
Right.
But he'll wait, it's like, okay, Christmas vacation is coming up in 3 days. Are you gonna make any plans? Nothing. It might be fun to do something with a friend. Nothing. And then the day comes when there's nothing planned, and he calls 5 friends, and they're all busy, and nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. It's like, actually, everybody's just planned something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think those constant reminders. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, just having run this program for 10 years, like getting kids to socialize outside of social skills groups and camps is a big hurdle. I think we involve parents longer than what we would in other settings. So to me, it's okay if parents of teenagers are involved a little. The other thing we've seen, if it's regular, it's more predictable. It's like easier. There's less planning. So if there can be a Saturday evening Dungeons and Dragons night, and it's just kind of a known thing, and that can take some more support from the adults to set it up, but then you're not having to do that kind of constant reshuffling, because we've had many clients where they put a lot of energy, they go see the movie, it's great, and then you're right back to where you were there. It's another month before they do their social thing. So if it can be predictable and sort of regularly scheduled, that can be helpful. And I think it's okay for parents to nudge it a little more, simply because this is a challenging area. It feels weird helping your 15-year-old arrange social stuff, but in some cases I think it helps give them that nudge towards that. And just my 2 cents.
No, yeah, I think that's a perfect example of having like an ongoing thing to kind of plan or look forward to if that's possible. But then, yeah, in terms of setting things up, just the reminders of, hey, winter break is a busy time, people go out of town, people are visiting with family, they might make other plans, like you might want to think about doing that sooner, right? Just even being really explicit about it.
Oh yeah, and I've done that, and I've said, remember Thanksgiving break when the same thing happened.
Yeah.
Remember Halloween weekend when the same thing happened.
Right,
And it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't remember 5 minutes, something happened 2 weeks ago.
Right. No. Yeah. I guess just trying to encourage them and maybe if you can get it on like the weekly goal schedule. So your goal this week is to call 2 friends and see if they can do something over winter break. And you don't have to do it Monday, you don't have to do it Tuesday, but you have to do it sometime this week so you can make sure that gets scheduled for them. Perfect. Yeah.
I have a comment about that. My daughter is 15, and she consistently getting people say no to her. So this is not something her favorite or want her to do because she doesn't want to hear more no. And that's the difficult part. And but she is more like by herself. She said, I'm not going to call anybody. I'm going to enjoy my holiday just by myself. That's a weekend sensing because nobody wants to hang out with me. Even I call early, they still don't want it. I go like, it's really hard to get it. Her other teen friend engage with her because people don't like her behavior, not read the social cue, inappropriate talk. She's not cool. So that's another downside. And she just had enough.
Yeah. Oh, that's really sad, and I can see that, and like that's true for some of the kids that Ben and I work with too at Aspiring Youth. That they don't have a lot of friends outside of the program, and then they come to camp or come to groups, and they're like they have people who kind of get them right and get their quirks. So my kind of advice for that piece is if she's wanting those types of friendships, trying to find some avenues where she can make friends like that are maybe more similar to her and get her if she wants those interactions. That sounds like she does.
Yeah, and then the problem is that she doesn't realize her diagnosis. She doesn't want to hang out with kids send out the diagnosis. She thinks it's more difficult to deal with them. And she needs to spend more energy. She wants to hang out with the people who does not have diagnosis, but then those group of people don't want to hang out with them.
Oh, yes. So, yep, I totally get that because I worked with a girl last year who was that same way. She's like, well, I don't want to hang out with these people because they're not as smart as me, and they definitely have more social problems than I do, and so trying to find that in-between spot, so yeah, it can be tricky sometimes, definitely.
I found multi-age groups often get rid of that to some degree, because it isn't just same age, and so if you can involve them in groups that are multi-age, it's less obvious sometimes.
Yeah, good point. And then I kind of went over this metacognition piece at the beginning of the presentation, but Michelle Garcia Winner does social thinking, and if you don't know a lot about social thinking, please look it up. It's wonderful, and it really is that perspective, I guess. But really thinking about like the things that I'm doing and how they might be affecting others around me is just amazing. And it really helps with the social behavior map. It really helps kids understand this. And so there's a handout for that too on the very back page. So it talks about my behavior, how others feel about my behavior, how others treat me based on how they feel, and then how I feel. And like I already kind of went through expected behavior, so how people expect that you will react in a certain situation. So on your math problem, or on your math work, if you're having trouble, the teacher and other kids around you expect that you'll raise your hand or go up to the teacher and ask her. And so that obviously affects how people around you feel and how they treat you, and then ultimately how you feel. And then the opposite, that unexpected behavior of flipping your desk or whatever it might be. How do others feel? How do the people in the classroom feel? And what do they do? So maybe the kid next to me feels really scared, and then he won't play with me at recess. And now I'm feeling a little lonely because no one will play with me at recess. And how can I change that? How can I change that process around? So it's really important thing for us to really explicitly spell out for our kids so that they can see how that kind of comes full circle.
And socialthinking.com has a lot of free articles. So
Yeah.
Michelle Garcia Winner's website
.org.
Is it .org?
I think it's .org.
Okay. A lot of good articles in there.
If you Google social thinking, it should be. It might be .com. I think it's .org.
On the handout, it says that.
Oh, well, there we go. .com. Perfect. Okay, and then like I said, if you only remember one thing from this presentation, remember these two important questions. What do you need to do, and when are you going to do it? And then hold them to that. It's really important. And then just the last thing I want to go over is some really great resources. So Smart But Scattered is this book by Peg Dawson and Richard Dwyer. And it's amazing. Peg Dawson does presentations all over the world. She's also a school psychologist. And she's amazing. She did a presentation for Federal Way in the fall, and I just can't say enough good things about her. Flexible and Focus is another resource that I was talking about for teaching executive function skills, individuals with autism and ADHD. And like I said, it can be a little bit, a little bit difficult to read because it's really geared towards providers. But it does a nice job of going through each step that they need to address in those interventions. And it's very popular because I tried to order it on Amazon in February and there was a wait list for it. So I just got a Kindle version. But it's a very good book. ESToTheRescue.com. So they do kind of like that Superflex type of approach to executive functioning skills. So that's awesome, using different characters and stuff like that, which is good for the younger kids, especially. And then this website, developingchild.harvard.edu, they have lots of resources about a lot of different things, but this website in particular talks about, or this section in particular, really breaks apart executive functioning skills by age groups. So strategies by age groups. So I thought that was really cool, and all of their resources are free. So I thought that was a really good resource too. And then some fun apps. So 30/30, that is for planning and prioritizing. It helps them track time, and it also incorporates breaks. So that's what that 30/30 is. Work time versus break time. Quizlet is a good one. And I know I use this in college, but you can make your own flashcards with it. So it can be towards whatever you want. But that's a good working memory one. UNote is good for organization. It's a creative note-taking app. And then In Class is one that's good for time management. So they can add class times, homework, and dates, and they can actually record content as well. So they can do audio recordings if that's easier for them than trying to write stuff down or type it in their apps. And then they can add also files, like if they have a file for a class that they need to remember, and make some notes on their reminders too. That is all that I have for you guys today, and I really appreciate you all being here and joining in, and it's a good conversation. It's been really enjoyable for me. Thank you guys.